Okay. All right, great. So we're going to get started. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. This is a Narragansett Town Council / School Committee work session. We're going to call it to order. This is our annual work session with the school committee on the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget, school and town revenues and expenditures as required by Rhode Island General Laws 16-21. So it's good to see everybody in person this time around. Last time we did this was over Zoom, which is, it's always a little bit tricky, especially with new members on the school committee and the council. So it's good to see everyone in person. But why don't we just take a second to go around and just do a quick introduction for anyone who doesn't, so everyone knows who everyone is. We'll start with Alex over there.
Alex Menzies. I'm on my first term of the Narragansett School Committee.
Hello, I'm Justin Skenney, and I'm a member of the Narragansett School Committee.
Joshua LaPlante on the school committee.
Diane Nobles, Vice Chair and Clerk of the School Committee.
Hi, Tammy McNeese, the Chair of the School Committee.
Jesse Pugh, the President of the Town Council. I'm on my second term.
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, Narragansett Town Council President Pro Tem.
Deb Kopek, Town Council Member, first term.
Eva Drutinsky, Town Council Member, first term.
Pete Cummings, Superintendent.
Karen Hagan, Director of Finance and Administration for the school.
Great, thank you, everybody. So really, what we do during this session is basically Peter runs it, goes through all the expenditures, capital projects, and kind of the plan for the next few years with the school budget. So Peter, feel free to take it away.
All right, thanks, Jesse. So thank you all for being here tonight. And this is just a very, very preliminary discussion of some of the conditions that are affecting our budget this year. And so, I'll just start by just saying how thankful we are for the partnership with the town. So certainly working with the town, working with Jim, and all the members of the town have been incredibly helpful as we've gone through this pandemic. It's been stresses on all sorts of different pieces, from mental health to emergency services to facilities to staffing shortages, and it's been wonderful to have just such great partners as we've kind of all chipped in and gotten through this together. So with that being said, we were hoping, right, a year ago when we reached this time, we'd be saying, hey, the pandemic is behind us and here's what we're doing in recovery. Unfortunately, we're still living it. We had many cases today. Kids are still, unfortunately, being quarantined. We're keeping as many students in school as we possibly can for as long as we can. But that does take resources, and it's a high pressure on our staff. And so lots of cleaning, lots of spacing, lots of contact tracing. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, the Department of Health no longer does contact tracing for school-age children that has fallen to the schools. And so every time that there's a case, we need to do all of the contact tracing. We need to communicate to parents and families that their child has been exposed. We have to determine the length of their quarantine, kind of all those different pieces. So it's a very different role for schools, and it's one that is not one that our staff was necessarily trained for. So we've had to give a lot of support for them along the way. We are testing literally hundreds of kids a week for COVID testing. We have let's take resources of nurses and support staff and transportation and, again, notification, all those pieces. We are fortunate in that we have a really great staff and that they have pitched in willingly, and they have done what is best for the children of Narragansett. It is an ongoing battle, and our fear is that it will get worse before it gets better, and so we're kind of prepping for that right now. So unfortunately, the pandemic has brought some other pieces to us that are just hard, right? So staffing is an issue. For us, just because we have our own transportation, I've been working closely with Jim. He's been a great help with that. But, finding bus drivers, you would be surprised how difficult it is. And so, bus drivers, custodians, support staff, very difficult to find, very difficult to hire right now. And with all of that, we have a lot of good news as well. Kids are thriving in school. While our academic scores at the upper levels, particularly middle school, you could really see some pandemic effects from that. We were really heartened to see our third grade reading scores were about the highest that they've been ever. And so that was really nice to see, and that's a major goal of the school committee is to get third grade reading, get every kid on grade level during third grade. And we're starting to see the effects of our investment in preschool. And you can directly tie those two pieces with the early intervention of preschool into some of those early reading scores, and we're really pleased to see that. The other thing that continues to do extremely well is our CTE programs, our career and tech programs. And so our first cohort of students in our plumbing program are now seniors. And so they are going to walk right into apprenticeships when they graduate this year, which is really great to see. I still say I want to sign up for that program. The FFA continues to thrive as we go forward. Our education program is attracting more and more kids, and that's in partnership with URI, so we're really excited about that program. I actually had 3 students interview me today. They're doing a project on school finance, so I'm hoping that we have some future business managers in the making. And then certainly, our computer science program is outstanding, and we continue to attract a lot of students to that who graduate with Cisco networking certification. So, we've had all that going on. We have had a lot of capital improvement this year. So we've done all the HVAC and controls in every building, and we continue to move forward on our renovation of the auditorium. And so that's really exciting. That's been a long time coming. If you recall, last year I talked a little bit about being approved for the school construction at the state level, where we receive 35% reimbursement for those costs. So we're really excited about that, and that continues to move forward. But really, there are a few things that are driving our budget. As you remember, right, almost 80% of our costs are staff, right? I mean, that's what school is. It's teachers and students. And so, 80% of our budget goes to staff, and everything else really goes to supporting that staff as they interact with students. Our population continues to be a struggle for us. And so, in Narragansett right now, we are graduating cohorts of over 100 Narragansett residents. We have also kids who are tuitioning in that, but, purely Narragansett residents, we have over 100. We're taking in cohorts of around 60 in kindergarten. And so that's, just a prospect of a dip in school-age population in Narragansett. So that will drive some staffing changes for us as we go forward. We always have kind of made staffing adjustments as we go. And so we will have some staffing adjustments at the younger grades this year, unfortunately. And again, families are telling us they want to come here. We're having lots of families that, tuition in once they can, grades 9 through 12. I had a parent call me the other day who was right on the Narragansett South Kingstown line and saying, is there any way I can send my child to Narragansett? So we have a lot of interest. We just don't have a lot of families that have the resources to purchase a home in Narragansett and be able to attend our schools right now. So that's really, unfortunate, because we do believe that we have a great school system, and, we can certainly do good things for kids. So we're ready and willing. Once people can move into Narragansett, we're ready to welcome them. With us, really our budget drivers is salary, as I mentioned, benefits, and our contractual obligations. And so we are in contract negotiations with both of our unions. And so I can't give you kind of an estimate of what the salaries will be yet. And that will continue through the winter, and we hope to have that wrapped up mid-spring. And if you kind of look at the handouts that I gave you, one of the things is we always try to follow the resolution from the town, where we use 3% of our budget for capital improvements. So this year, that would be roughly $1 million. And again, our major capital improvement project, along with kind of health and safety issues that we have every year, is really around the auditorium, and that's the major project that we have going forward. We also like to hold, and per resolution, hold 2% in reserve. And so that is really if an emergency such as a major pandemic comes along, we do have the resources to fall back on should we need it. And then, the rest of the, if we have a fund balance, the rest of that is applied to our operating costs. And we don't yet know what our fund balance would be. We're waiting on the conclusion of the audit. And once we do know that, we would apply that into our budgeting process as we go forward. One of the things that we've certainly received a lot of questions on is around both state aid and the federal aid that comes. And so there, for the schools, it's called the Essa Grant, ESSA. And to date, we've received around $400,000 in ESSA 1 and ESSA 2. We will receive $1.5 million in ESSA 3. That is being used as it is intended to be, which is really in support of students' recovery. And so that is with interventions, that's with health and safety improvements. That is, we've had a wonderful program where we're doing one-to-one tutoring with students after school. So hiring tutors to get kids caught up when they are kind of off track or have been affected by the pandemic. That's been for credit recovery, kind of really intended to get as close to the work of students as we possibly can and support that work and getting them back up to speed so that they are not long-term adversely affected by the pandemic. We've had some really good success with that, and we have some really good patterns. We've partnered with Brown University on a number of initiatives in terms of the tutoring, some other pieces, so we're really excited about those pieces. An unfortunate piece is that state aid just came out, so in early estimates of state aid, and I just handed that out to all of you. So Narragansett is slated to lose about $815,000, which is a huge hit for us. That typically it's been adjusted between $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. If you kind of look down the column, we are not alone in that, and there are a couple of drivers of that cut in state aid. So state aid is determined by what's known as the funding formula, and there were three main buckets of the funding formula. Bucket one is the number of kids that you have. And so we've had a reduction in our number of students. Bucket two is the number of students in poverty, which is determined by free and reduced lunch. An unintended consequence of a pandemic response has affected our state aid. So all students in Rhode Island receive free lunch no matter what this year. And so that has just been a pandemic response, so all kids are getting it. Consequently, families who typically will hand in a form to qualify for free and reduced lunch have not been responsive in handing in those forms because they are already receiving free and reduced lunch. So despite encouragement from the district and despite the many phone calls and emails and knocking on doors that we've made, our free and reduced lunch number is kind of falsely low. We know that we have families in poverty. We know we have families that need those resources. Unfortunately, just the pure numbers don't reflect that because we can't get the level of responsiveness that we need from families. And often families don't recognize the impact to the community when they don't fill out that form. So we're working with our legislators to help to rectify some of that. We're hoping for some resolution and that this is a worst case scenario. And I know, and as you can see, Narragansett is not alone in that worry. And the third bucket is relative wealth of the community. And so again, because home values in Narragansett have gone up quite a bit during the pandemic for reasons that are not directly related to the relative wealth of the full-time inhabitants, there is kind of a false bubble, if you will, that has been affecting us with that funding formula. So we're working, as I said, with the legislators to try to correct that and do what we can with that. But this is, as I said, a worst-case scenario. Finally, what we really kind of think about as we go forward is what are our academic needs? And again, that really is around offering more AP classes, and we're offering at least 3 more AP classes next year. If the window opens up, we'll be adding another CTE program around media and communications. We're really looking for different ways to engage students, in different ways. And what we also know is that there's a lot of students that continue to be adversely affected by the pandemic. There's a lot of stress in families. There's a lot of, really people that are hitting hard times. And so we've had a lot of investment in mental health supports for students as well as we go forward, and have very much seen the need for that. So, so overall, that's kind of a broad picture of there's some really bright lights, and we're really excited about a lot of pieces of this. We are putting the resources that are available to bear, in terms of supporting our students through the pandemic. At the same time, we have some potential resources being taken away from us through the state funding formula. And so we're really trying to balance all those different things as we go forward. So it's clear as mud right now. But happy to answer any questions that you all might have. One final thing, I did hand out to you all the budget calendar, right, as we go forward, and I will highlight just a couple of things for you. So one, the Capital Reserve Committee, and there are members of the Town Council that are on that, will meet at the end of February, and the purpose of that is really to look at the fund balance and our capital plan, right, and to get input on that fund balance and capital plan. And then the public hearing on the school budget after the school committee goes through the approval process is, at the end of March, and that's when I'll come to the Town Council and go over our budget and take questions that you all might have. So with that, I'll pause for a moment. That was quite a bit, right? And take any questions that you all might have.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Yeah, why don't we go around the council, see if anyone has any questions. Susie, you can start.
So, Peter, I just wanted to ask about the hiring. I know across the state, every school is going without TAs and, actually special educators and so on. So what has Narragansett done, to really try to get the workforce? Because I know it's been a challenge across the state.
It's really been a challenge. So we've had to raise wages in a number of areas in order to attract people. We've been working with the town and with the state to bring back some retirees for short-term stints, and that's been an important piece of what we've done. We cross-train, quite honestly. So we are small enough that everyone needs to know how to do a couple of things. And so, our athletic director is doing testing, right? Our director of operations is helping to run some of those testing and nursing operations. We have principals who are covering classes on a regular basis. So we have all sorts of things that, everyone's pitching in. And again, everyone is on a little bit on emergency footing, right? And we're going on 2 years of that now. So it is, finding ways to make it sustainable is really the trick with us. And we're trying to do that. And, I have to say our teachers and our support staff have been absolutely wonderful throughout all of this. They have gone in 100%. They're doing what's right for children. They're working super hard to make sure that kids continue to learn and stay safe. And despite some significant pushback at time when people don't like the rules.
Should I ask a second question?
There's time, sure.
I just wanted to clear up obviously the schools are suffering because of COVID, and is that 1.5 million, is that just for the interventions that you're planning in the district, or is that cut out in another way as well? Is that?
So we have some great questions. So we have some pretty broad parameters that we can use that for. Right now we're trying not to use it for things that would then need to be taken over in the regular school budget, right? So we're trying to use it for things that are addressing the needs of the pandemic with the idea that the pandemic will eventually be over, right? And so, those types of things where you can get in a little bit of trouble is if you start to supplant your regular budget with those one-time funds, and we're trying not to go down that pathway. The cut in state aid makes that a little bit more difficult, quite honestly. But, long-term, there are enough needs from the students due to the pandemic that we can use this money over a 3-year period. And so we are not looking to spend the 1.5 in just one shot. We are thinking that this is a sustained recovery effort that will take longer-term interventions, and that's what we're trying to target with this.
Great, thanks.
All right, Eva, any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Deb?
I have a couple. With regard to the free and reduced issue, I mean, that's usually an issue even before pandemics, right? So, what, are you having any success with your attempts to get people to fill out the paperwork?
Limited, but we continue to make the effort. And I think what we are also trying to do is to get families to understand that the resources that would be available to them would increase. It's not just about the free and reduced lunch.
Right. I think that's so important. The other thing I noticed going down the formula calculations list, that Barrington has actually had a positive change. I'm sitting there thinking, how'd that happen? So, and what can we do to mimic them?
If we could get more students in Narragansett, so they had an increase in students, and that's the major
Our housing's more
driver.
expensive than Barrington, is that what you're telling me?
In some areas.
Okay. All right, thanks, Deb. I have one question for tonight. It's about busing. So I know we made the change this year to combine the peer school and high school
We did.
together, which obviously not ideal during this time with COVID and having that many kids on the bus. Are we doing anything to offer testing or mandating testing, either offering or mandating testing for the bus drivers?
Yeah, they test every week. So all employees in Narragansett are required to test weekly.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great. And then how is that going with the combined busing?
So we had some, first couple of days of school, we had a few traffic backups as we got used to new traffic patterns and that type of thing. Beyond that, quite honestly, it seems to be going very smoothly. And so once we got our routines worked out for drop-off and for drop-off and pickup or drop-off and dismissal, there have been not any major complaints. So I would tell you that the bus complaints that we have this year are the same as or fewer than we've had in previous years.
That's good. That's great.
Yeah.
And do we have the same amount of kids overall riding the bus? Does
We
it
do.
seem like? Okay.
We do. And, part of what, we are cognizant of is that there are some families that just choose not to take the bus right now because of COVID. And so as that goes on, if we need to make adjustments, we will do so. But right now we have been able to maintain it. Our limiting factor is our availability of bus drivers. And so right now we have 11 home to school routes and we have 11 bus drivers. And so if someone is sick, our transportation supervisor is driving. Our HR manager, who also happens to have her white card as a bus driver, hops on a bus on occasion. And so, everyone is really pitching in, but it's a thin line right now,
Yeah.
but we're managing.
Great. Okay. Sounds good. Actually, one more question, which would be about remote learning. And what is like the plan or the policy at this point
So
that would trigger any sort of remote learning?
So there are two ways that we could possibly go to remote learning, and we are ready to do that. So we have our plans in place, the teachers are ready. Quite honestly, we're gonna tell all the kids, make sure you bring your computers home over break in case something happens, you know, all of those things. So there are a couple of things that could happen. One, we could have an outbreak in a school where we see community spread within a school. And so that would either shut down a classroom, a grade level, or an entire school, depending on the level of the outbreak. Two, there could be from the Department of Health a call for districts to, if they're seeing sustained community transmission across many schools, right, they would ask for us to go and to take a 2-week break or a 1-month break, whatever it is. Three, you know, we have the ability per the Department of Education to have up to 4 distance learning days. And the school committee passed a policy earlier this year where, you know, if we have an emergency closure due to snow or to something where we're not going to lose power, we can count that as a school day and do a distance learning day. We only like to do that, you know, if we know that students will have access to learning, will have access to their classes. So for example, when we had the storm days earlier this year where half the town lost power, those weren't appropriate for a distance learning day because no one could actually kind of engage in the learning on those days. So those would be makeup days. But we have other days that might be, I think we have one distance learning professional development day. We may have some distance learning snow days if we're not going to lose power on those days. So those are really the 3 conditions where we would go to distance learning. I do not believe that we would go to a sustained period of distance learning like we did in the spring of 2020. I think that proved to be really harmful to kids, you know, in ways big and small. And so, you know, right now we're just planning on shorter term distance learning periods if that becomes necessary.
Right, okay. All right, great, thank you. All right, well, we have the full school committee here, so I just want to make sure everyone gets a chance to participate. So if anyone has any comments or anything they want to share, now's the time. Feel free.
Thanks, Jesse. I just want to really kind of say a thank you to the town council. We really appreciate the collaboration and the working relationship that we've had with you over the past couple years, and just want to kind of keep those lines of communication open. So as you go throughout budget season, please reach out to Dr. Cummings. I know he'd be happy to, you know, talk one-on-one with you, answer any questions, send any questions to him if you want, you know, any more information, because we won't circle back together again until we have our joint capital reserve meeting. And then I know you've got a very full budget season, but if you can get to any of our budget workshops, you know, please come join us for part of that. But really, you know, just a thank you. This is going to be an interesting year, and Pete did the highlights, but the biggest kind of shocking news that we received was about the state aid. So for those of you who've been on the town council for a few years, for the school department, historically, we usually, you know, perhaps maybe we see a decrease of 100,000 or 200,000. Every now and then it's an increase of like 30,000. This is my 12th year on the school committee. I've never seen a staggering number in a loss of state aid of like, you know, losing $815,000 is significant. At the same time, as Dr. Cummings outlined, you know, there's a lot of COVID expenses, and it's you know, and the focus on, you know, the pandemic learning loss, and what are we going to do to support our kids is extra resources, extra tutoring, extra stuff. So those two together is very concerning to hear that as we go into budget season. But really just, you know, just want to say thank you and appreciate kind of the open, cooperative relationship that we have. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Everyone good? Okay. All right, well, thank you. Actually, so is it negative 39 million in terms of state aid overall? So it's not about moving the money around to different schools. They've actually, it's a total cut.
So I think it's important to remember that this is a preliminary estimate based on the funding formula that they've used for many years, and that there has been a task force that's been looking at the funding formula in terms of tweaking it to respond to both current conditions and to changes in population in Rhode Island. And some of the suggestions have include adjusting for special education populations that are higher cost, adjusting for English learners, that type of thing, right, and students in poverty. I think, long term, there is a lot of hope and lobbying for a legislative solution to some of the cuts. I would tell you that we're gonna get cut because we have a loss in population. My hope is that it's not at 800,000.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. That's definitely good info for us to know. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks again to everyone for being here. We appreciate it. And we'll adjourn, and we'll see you guys soon. All right, thank you. All right, all right. Do we have a motion to retire to executive session of the town council in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-4 and 42-46-5A to discuss litigation in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A2, Purdue Pharma LP et al., case number 19-23649, RDD, Bank R, SDNY.
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. All in favor, starting with Susan?
Susan Cicilline Bonanno, aye.
Eva Jurenski, aye.
Deb Kopek, aye.
Patrick Murray, aye.
Jesse Pugh, aye. Motion approved, 5-0. So we'll go into executive now. Good evening. Welcome, everybody. We're going to call the Narragansett Town Council regular meeting to order, December 20th at 7:32 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Justice for all.
Next, we have the disclosure of executive session votes from this evening. We have a motion to retire to executive session of the Town Council in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 4246-4 and 4246-5A to discuss litigation in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 4246-5A2, Purdue Pharma LP et al., case number 19-23649 RDD, Bank R SD NY. Motion by Councilor Cicilline Bonanno, seconded by Councilor Kopech, approved 5-0. Next, we had a motion to exit executive session. Motion by Councilor Cicilline Bonanno, seconded by Councilor Drzezinski. Motion approved 5-0. And last we have, actually, those are the only two votes. All right. Next we have the approval of minutes from November 1st, 2021 executive session. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0.
Council
No.
President?
Oh, sorry. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right. Motion approved 3-2.
Council President,
Yep.
seal the minutes of the executive session?
Right. James, are we able to do that during the meeting?
Yeah, you should do that now, and then we can revisit any votes later on that become disclosed.
Okay. Do we have a motion to seal the minutes from tonight's executive session?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from November 1st, 2021?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. All right, we're going to move on to our announcements and presentations. And we're going to start this evening with a proclamation. So we have a proclamation recognizing Geraldine Citrone for her long service on the zoning board. So we're going to go ahead and read that proclamation now. Whereas Geraldine Citrone has served on the Narragansett Zoning Board since 1996, serving as the Zoning Board's secretary for 19 years. Whereas Geraldine Citrone has been an extremely valuable contributor on the Zoning Board of Review relative to her decision-making. Whereas with a focus on the zoning laws, Geraldine has been instrumental in applying the zoning laws to town projects. Whereas participation and commitment to her community has always been a goal for Geraldine. Whereas Geraldine Citrone, as a member of the board, provided her extensive knowledge and expertise. And whereas Geraldine Citrone has been a true asset to the zoning board over the years, and we appreciate her volunteerism to the board. Now, therefore, we, the Town Council of the Town of Narragansett, do hereby extend our sincere appreciation and thanks to Geraldine Citrone for her distinguished service to the community and highly commend her for the manner in which she carried out her duties and responsibilities. Congratulations. We're going to take a 3-minute break, and we'll start back up.
Sure.
Oh.
I just want to say that it has been a pleasure to serve this town for the amount of time I have, and the past and present board members were all a pleasure to work with, and the town councils also. Thank you.
Pleasure having you on the board. I'm on now.
Okay, so next we have,
Council President?
Yep.
You have to call it back to order. You took a break. You need to reconvene.
right, we don't normally call it back to order, do we? All right, call it back to order. All right. Okay, so next we have a Flattering Farm Causeway concept study. We have the consultants here tonight, but we're going to call up our Jill Sabo from Community Development. Thank you, Jill.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the Town Council. I'm Jill Sabo with the Community Development Department. As you may recall, the Hazard Mitigation Plan identified the Flattering Farm Causeway as a high-priority project location because of the flooding, and it's being the only ingress and egress for about 350 properties on Harbor Island. Earlier this year, the town was awarded, and this council actually accepted a grant to complete a concept study for alternatives to figure out how to make that causeway more resilient. And tonight, you'll be hearing a presentation from Andrea Judge. Dean Audette, as well, is here from Fuss & O'Neill, presenting to you the results of that study. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrea, please.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President and the council. So I'm going to summarize the study that we performed on this causeway. As Jill stated, something to note is that there is more work to do. So this was really a first step to identify the challenges at the site with regard to flooding potential and to identify some possibilities that could address that. In addition to the alternatives to enhance the coastal flood resilience, we also reviewed water quality data in Champlain Cove and Long Cove in order to assess if there was some potential benefits to providing a new culvert at Flattering Farm Road. So, sorry, I just wanted to also point out, so this image here also depicts our study area. It's about a 1,000-foot long segment on Flattering Farm Road, and this is the only point of access to the Harbor Island neighborhood. It's low-lying, so there is a potential for, there's a vulnerability here for coastal flooding. This set of imagery, we developed these are depths of inundation under various coastal storm and flooding scenarios under daily high tide from present day and projected scenarios. We obtained this data from the CRMC. And so this first figure, it depicts the potential for daily flooding in 2070. And you can see here, this blue heat map, this is the inundated area under high tide. And so by 2070, this is indicating that there's potential to have 3 feet of water every day on the causeway. So flooding of this depth would, it's inaccessible to vehicles. In addition to the potential for the daily high tide flooding, we also reviewed coastal storm. So the image here, it depicts the depth of flooding under a 10% chance coastal storm. So every year, a 10% chance of experiencing this level of inundation. It's storm surge plus, under this case, no sea level rise, high tide. And this is depicting approximately 2 feet of flooding under a 10% storm, which is generally considered a nuisance storm. So it's a high-frequency event. And this depth of inundation is projected to increase with sea level rise, and it's expected to increase significantly when that's considered. So this depth of inundation would also be impassable under present-day conditions to most vehicles. And then just to reiterate, the shaded area inundated, and it is, again, the only way to access this neighborhood. So they would be blocked off from emergency services. So we identified 3 possibilities to improve the resiliency of the causeway. They all involved elevating the roadway. And so alternative 1 involved raising the road by 3 feet above the low level, the low point on the roadway. Alternative 2 involved raising the roadway by 5 feet, and alternative 3 involved raising the roadway by 7 feet. And then, so you can see shaded here the segments that would be impacted, that would be raised, and then tying into the existing grade. And then, so you can see alternative 3, it goes without saying, provides the most resilient conditions post-construction. Just to summarize, we did review the water quality, existing water quality data that we had in Long Cove. And we found that there's a potential that if you provide a new culvert, it may improve the circulation and it may improve water quality. Further studies needed here. And this additional study may identify any possible benefits to nuisance flooding as well, if those benefits exist. So we consulted with the advisory committee and the town, and we recommended that the next steps be to conduct a scoping study. We selected alternatives 2 and alternatives 3 as the preferred approach. And it just, again, those involved raising the road by 5 feet and 7 feet respectively. The next step is going to involve early public engagement and early consultation with regulatory agencies and engaging with the funding sources. The goal is really going to be to quantify any mitigation benefits with the costs. So I believe I have time for questions, if you have.
Sure, thank you. All right, let's go around the council. Susan?
Thank you. I just wanted to ask about the public engagement. What do you see that to be, or how is that going to roll out?
Yeah, so since we've identified these 2 possibilities that we want to study further, they would involve materials that we can distribute to the public, and there'll be engagement with the neighborhood groups as well to explain to them the alternatives that we're reviewing and solicit their feedback.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I got a question. Would improving that culvert and adding a couple culverts, would that improve the improved circulation? Would that mitigate flooding to a certain extent?
Yeah, so it's additional study is necessary, but when we look at particularly for even the, nuisance and the extreme flooding events, we're looking at on the order of, like we'd indicated, 3 feet up to approximately 16 feet for a 1% annual chance storm of inundation on the road. So when we're considering the magnitude of this depth, it's significant, and one single culvert, it's unlikely to effectuate any benefit just due to the sheer overtopping
The volume,
depth. Yeah.
Well, that's
Coming
what
from the
That's why
ocean.
if you add a couple more culverts that were, can handle the volume of the circulation, wouldn't that mitigate it to a certain extent, at least temporarily till a more, stringent solution is developed?
Yeah, I think we'd have to study that further. I think maybe there are some ancillary benefits if we're talking about, really frequent couple inches here and there of flooding. The thing that we touched on in our study is that there was a previous tidal study, and what that showed is that there was no difference in the tidal depth on either side of the causeway. And what that indicates to us is that the water is, these changes in tide, it's making its way around Harbor Island.
Right.
And when we think of it in terms of, an analogy would be a bathtub. So if you have 16 feet of water in your bathtub, your drain is not going to be sized adequately to just drain that really quickly. Your water is going to just flood over your rest of your bathroom.
Understood. But many of these storms that are quick in duration or short in duration are wind-driven, like a northeaster or something from the southwest, which is the prevailing direction of many storms. And that might mitigate if we had more flow. So that's just my point, but that's all I got.
All right, anybody else? No? All right. Well, thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Excuse me, and updating us and the public. I know this is an important project for the residents down in that area, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have a presentation on the Emergency Operations Plan, and we're going to have Dory Boardman from the town come on up. Thank you, Dory.
Good evening, Town Council President, council members. My name is Dory Boardman, and I work for the Narragansett Emergency Management Agency. Unfortunately, Chief Partington is under the weather tonight and will not be able to join us. He is very excited about bringing this project forward. The emergency operation update has been a long-standing priority for him, and we are happy tonight to present this final draft. Over the past year, the Emergency Management Director, Chief Partington, and our emergency management team have researched, compiled, drafted, and updated the town's existing 2010 Narragansett Emergency Management Plan. All of the updates to the draft Emergency Operations Plan were written in accordance to all state and federal laws and directives. Once this draft is approved, it will supersede the town's existing 2010 Emergency Operations Plan. It is important to note that this Emergency Operations Plan is a living document, and that actually occasionally there are edits and changes should be expected. We have in fact made a change to this plan, and it came after it was posted, the link was posted. And that was to the functional annex number 5, which is the emergency management section. That was done in order to align the document with the town's hazard mitigation plan, which recognizes the risks and vulnerabilities here in the town. The town council adopted that plan in January of 2019. The final updated emergency operation plan will be posted to the town's website following the town council's approval. The chief and I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of those involved in seeing this project through to fruition, specifically the department heads, the town manager, and Weston and Sampson, who is here tonight, for compiling the final document and arranging for tonight's presentation. Right now, I'd like to introduce Jim Reardon from Weston and Sampson.
Thank you, Dory.
Thank you.
Mr. Reardon, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Town Council President and members of the council. Very much appreciate being here. I'm Jim Reardon from Weston and Sampson, was the project manager for this project. First, a couple of words about what is an EOP, or an Emergency Operations Plan. So it's a plan to address hazard incidents and emergency incidents that might occur, any sort of disaster. So as you can see in this diagram, the incident occurs. It requires that requirements are identified, order and acquire materials to prepare for the incident, mobilize, track and report, recover and demobilize, reimburse as necessary, and then inventory the results and prepare for the next incident. This is the incident response cycle. Purpose of an EOP, or an emergency operations plan, is first to establish the legal and organizational basis for operations in the town and to prepare for response, disaster, or large-scale emergency situation. It provides planning and departments for disaster prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. It also is the fundamental document to test the town's disaster preparedness capacity. Use this as a benchmark, essentially. And then it provides organization to manage response to emergencies, disasters, and terrorist incidents. Any sort of disaster situation or emergency situation, this plan is designed to address. Our project status, as Dory mentioned a couple of minutes ago, this will be a living document. It's in the final draft stage at this point and is going through the public review process. A version of it is currently posted on your website, and I believe that's being updated with a couple of minor changes in anticipation of further public review and adoption. Oops. Emergency operation planning considerations. So, excuse me. So it is intended, as I've mentioned earlier, to consider all threats and hazards that you might encounter in the town. It's supposed to be flexible enough to address both traditional and catastrophic incidents. So when something really extreme happens, this plan is actually designed to address that, as well as more routine sort of emergency incidents, say, such as a small hurricane or a nor'easter or something of that nature that might occur every couple of years. The plan is intended to clearly identify mission and supporting goals, depict the anticipated environment for action, meaning the context of your community. It identifies tasks, allocates resources to accomplish those tasks, and then establishes accountability within the town governance so that you guys are all prepared to respond appropriately when a disaster occurs. And to tell those with operational responsibilities what to do and why to do it. That's a really important aspect of this, is that when you're in an emergency situation, by definition, you're in an uncertain situation. Things will happen that you're not expecting. So the how and the why is really critical to making sure that an emergency operations plan works appropriately so that people can respond when something unexpected happens that wasn't predicted. So the planning process is how such plan is developed. So the emergency management director, that would be Chief Partington in this case, coordinates and plans for the review of the existing emergency operations plan. Emergency management related staff attend meetings and plan review. And so we did that with department heads and leaders within your town to make sure that they were prepared, that the plan prepared them appropriately for emergencies and disasters. And then, of course, there's the public review process, which we're doing now. Plan elements. So the plan includes a number of different elements. You can kind of break them into 4 categories. Priority hazards are identified. Priority hazards being things like hurricanes, tornadoes, severe storms, earthquakes, terrorist events, etc. The basic plan itself provides an overview of the operations for the town and how the town is set up to address and prepare for emergency operations. Functional annexes, which provide specific information and direction to focus on responsibilities and tasks. So those are really aimed towards the the individual departments and commissions and things of that nature to make sure that they're prepared. And then hazard-specific annexes, which are focused on different types of incidents. And at this point, we will entertain any questions, comments that the council may have or the public may have.
All right, thank you. Any thoughts or comments from the council? Okay, anyone over here? All right. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, we have a couple minutes before our scheduling of public hearings. So we'll take one person for open forum public comment right now. So anyone who's interested in speaking, please raise your hand. Dr. Alba.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, all members, honorable members of the Town Council, and Town Solicitor, and all honored guests here, Town Planner. I appreciate all you do for us. Fracasciante developers purchased the Champlain's Marina in Block Island last December for $19 million. I urge you all to look at the Champlain's Marina and Resort at champlainsresort.com. Fracasciante is spending more on renovating the resort, yet for the 5-acre parcel in Galilee that his company has leased for over 10 years, he has neglected it. Fracasciante has purposely let his leased land in Galilee become a haven for scavengers by failing to maintain the land and the property. His breach of his lease should disqualify Fracasciante from even being considered as a potential candidate to renew his lease. A Fracasciante representative called the area smelly. If it is smelly, it is because his company made the leased land a haven for scavengers. His company has created an eyesore in the hope people may feel nothing other than a parking lot could be placed in that area. A parking lot would allow Fracasciante to get the biggest bang for his buck. In addition, a parking lot would hurt Galilee, as it would primarily attract those members who want to park in the area to go primarily to Block Island. Let us not forget a street parking lot is primarily a cash business. The more people who go to Block Island, the more likely some will go to the resort in Marina. The Rhode Island Attorney General's office determined the marina was illegally expanded upon. Please review the Hummel report on the YouTube titled Blocked Out, February 5th, 2021. The Hummel report shows how the elected officials and the residents of Block Island fought and are still fighting the illegal expansion of the marina, as the expansion will cause great harm to the fragile ecosystem. Do Fracasciante and Palino really care about the concerns of the residents, the local businesses, or our ecosystem? The Attorney General's investigation prompted 2 CRMC board members to resign. Now in Narragansett, we have our own fight over a 5-acre parcel of leased land in Galilee. Fracasciante wants the RIDEM to consider giving his company a 99-year lease after they breached the terms of their previous lease. That would be deeply suspect. RIDEM should not empower those who have shown a disregard to the environment and its residents. The proposal for a seafood processing plant should be thrown out as the area is not zoned industrial. Therefore, it would be illegal to put an industrial plant on that area of land. A seafood processing plant will not help the local economy, nor will it serve to attract people to visit Galilee. It also has the potential to make the area noisy and smelly. Let the Quonset Aqua Fish Processing Plant be constructed in Quonset. Its name would be fitting for the Quonset area. If the owners love Quonset so much, then let them support Quonset with their seafood processing plant. The town of Narragansett's proposal is supported by our elected representatives, town manager and planner, research studies, and from associations that have dedicated their lives to improve Narragansett and Galilee, such as the Friends of Galilee. An online petition has close to 2,400 signatures in support of the town of Narragansett's proposal. We hope the legacy of Director Terry Gray and legal counsel Mary Kay will be that they listened to the will of the aforementioned individuals. So that Director
Dr.
Gray,
Alba, we got to cut it.
and legal counsel Mary Kay were instrumental in helping rather than hurting our gem of a village of Galilee. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll get back to open forum after we schedule a couple public hearings here. All right, so we have 2 public hearings to schedule tonight. The first is a motion to schedule a public hearing and refer to the planning board the issue of amending Narragansett's zoning ordinance to make changes to section 4.5 of the zoning ordinance, high water table limitations overlay district. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Do you have a date?
The date is, the suggested date is February 7th. All right. Yeah, it'll be a public hearing during the regular meeting, yep. All right, everyone good? Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion approved 5-0. Next, we have a motion to reschedule a public hearing on an application from NGP 2 LLC to amend Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, proposing amending Section 2.2 definitions and Section 6 zone regulations to include mini warehouse.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, any discussion? This would be February 7th as well. So this is a reschedule. Okay. Any comments from the public? All right. So this would be to reschedule for February 7th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion approved 5-0. All right, so we'll go back to open forum. Anyone wishing to speak, please raise your hand. Dr. Vengermesh.
Yes. Yeah. Go figure.
Well, one important point I'd like to ask clarity on, the Galilee item said the respondent selected on December 15th. Has that happened? Yes or no?
No decision.
Pardon?
Sorry, no decision yet.
Okay, I didn't understand you.
No, there's been no decision.
Okay, and this is just a reminder on this. We are competing against a private sector company. Private sector companies have advantages over groups like us in that they have continuity of their board of directors. Very rarely is there a radical change in the board of directors. They hence then have continuity. Our continuity represents the people I am looking at now, 5 people. And the whole board could leave us next election. And hence our continuity compared to the private sector doesn't really match up. And we saw that with the library situation over the years. We switched from 2 to 3 to 3 to 2 to 2 to 3 to 5 to 0. And we don't really want that to happen in a long-term construction project like we're looking at Galilee. So if we were to get this, we have to have some sort of a longer-term relationship developed. And we cannot rely on given town councils to last. So if we were to get this, or if we were to do something like this again in the future, please consider the long-term relationship, which calls really for a special body with special fundings. Relying on a very changeable composition of the town council is not good for a long-term project like this.
Thank you.
Richard.
All right. Gloria?
Good evening.
Please state your full name and address.
Glory Roman, 33 Wheatfield Cove Road. I just would like to make one comment. If people are coming forward and taking off their mask, they're contaminating this whole section, microphone, podium, and the whole thing. So I would strongly suggest that people come up and speak with their mask on, just from a health issue point of view. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a good point as well. I'll just give a little reminder on the policy tonight for everyone watching and everyone here. So we're following basically the governor's mandate as well as CDC recommendations. So for anyone vaccinated, you are free to make the decision if you want to wear a mask or not, if you're vaccinated and can show proof of that vaccination. If you're not vaccinated, then the requirement is to wear a mask. I do think that it makes a lot of sense, since people are going to be an inch away from the microphone, to leave your mask on whether you're vaccinated or not when speaking at the podium. So I would agree with that. I know that's not an official policy that we have, but I think just in terms of respect for others, that makes sense, and we can discuss if we want to formalize that moving forward. So thank you. Thank you, Gloria. All right, Mr. Wojciechowski.
So I could take a breather, because I have my card. Yeah.
Please state your full name and address.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. Live in Narragansett, vote in Narragansett. I want to speak about liberty and justice for all. You just said that tonight as you began the meeting. It says that all liberty, justice, equality, liberty and justice for all. So we just pledged to provide justice for all. You know, we hire the assessor and the assessment group over there to assess properties to make sure that everybody has the correct assessment and pays the appropriate tax bill. However, you have a policy now which demands that some residents pay 40% more than others, unjustly. They're treated unjustly. Case in point, I have a CNA living in a 2-room unit. So she essentially is paying 40% more than other citizens of this town. Year-round resident, paying 40% more in her tax assessment, let's say. Then I have a family, 2 kids, and she pays 40% more via the rent payment, but it's 40% more appropriated for a tax bill. She's trying to save to buy a house. At this point, she's moving to Minnesota. That's it for families. You know, I haven't raised her rent for more than 5 years to try and keep her here and be honest with her. But from my perspective, it's treating some unjustly. And I know the first reason for that was, the business people. Let's just tax them to death. Let's tax the business people to death. Who cares? They don't have enough pull to get over here and draw enough votes to save them. And unfortunately, it affects residents and some of the poorest people in this town who rent and are trying to upgrade their status. And I really respectfully ask you to go back to the single rate, where everybody is paid equally, appropriate assessment. You pay based on assessment of the property. On the property. That's why you have the assessment. You pay based on assessment, and you don't be treated unjustly, as now is the case. Will you please make the right changes as a pledge here? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Catherine? Catherine, please state your full name and address.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Rose Court. I've been vaccinated, I've had the booster, I was tested yesterday, I'm negative, so if I get COVID, it's one of these germy people before me who's giving it
Yeah,
to me.
but keep it on, Catherine, so you don't. Yeah, just keep yourself safe, too.
Okay. I hope Chief Poddington is going to speak a little bit more about the evacuation plan. I'm not quite sure what that was about. I know in Florida, when we have hurricanes, they call you and they tell you, get out of town. And in order to get back in, you have to have a pass and a PIN. So I'm just wondering, how far we're going with this. I guess we have an evacuation plan. I'm not quite sure what it is. I hope Chief Poddington speaks more about it. The other thing is, since 2015, the commercial tax rate has gone down $3. It was $15 in 2015. It's $11.96 now. The residential rate was $10. It's now $8.86. So again, the commercial rate has gone down $3 since 2015, and the residential rate has gone down $1. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Okay, looks like that's it. So we're going to close open forum and move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items on consent that any council members would like to remove?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Under new business, number 7 is a motion to adopt a resolution approving the final draft of the town's emergency operations plan. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, discussion? Okay. Anyone from the public interested in speaking? All right, so we just watched the presentation. Seems like everyone's confident and.
I'm not going to vote for it.
What?
Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't get a chance to review it, and this guy, he's just,
Do we want to
It's in
table
the, well, it's in the
I
packet.
know, it's 250 pages. I didn't
Yeah.
get a chance to look
The
at
actual, the actual plan is 250 pages, so.
Right.
Do we want to table it and promise to read it in the next 2 weeks?
I mean, if you want to do that, I'm fine.
Well,
mean,
I mean, anyone can make a motion, so if you want to make a motion, that's fine.
Patrick's saying he needs time.
Did anybody else read it?
No,
I haven't read through the
actually
whole
put a
thing.
note on here to say, read this now.
Yeah.
So,
Why don't we read it before we approve it?
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think I'll make a motion to continue this.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Anyone from the public? All right, so this is a motion to continue. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion approved, 5-0.
Make a note to finish.
Number 8 is a motion to award the bid for the purchase of revenue software to Vision Government Solutions Incorporated, VGSI, in the amount of $91,337 for year 1, at their quoted bid prices for printing and mailing services of the annual and quarterly billings. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Does anyone have any questions for Chris?
It's going to save us a lot of money, right, Chris? Okay, well, that's good enough for me.
So can I just ask a question? I mean, it looked like to me what we're doing here is we're essentially automating and making more efficient the process that would, over and above what's in place today. Is that, do I have that right?
Consolidating.
Well, efficiency was what I was thinking.
Yes, no, there we go, okay.
Okay.
Yes, it is updating the software, making it more accessible, and there's other things we're going to do later with access and portal payments and things.
Right.
But this software we currently have is very outdated, and it's actually not supported any longer, so we need to move into the 21st century, so that's going to help us.
It's always good to move into the 21st century. That's all, thank you.
Also, Chris, this will save man hours, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely, yes.
You have an estimate of man hours?
No,
Okay. I believe you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, anyone from the public interested in speaking? Okay, all right.
Catherine.
Is there a hand? Oh, Catherine?
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. We had vision appraisal as our assessor for years, and then we switched to New England Reval. And it seems that vision appraisal is the only game in town as far as the software. It just doesn't make any sense to me that we're using vision appraisal software, but we're using another company to be our assessor. And I don't know why we switched, and I don't know why we couldn't get a better deal if we were using vision appraisal as our assessor when we're using their software. I just think we switched at one point when people didn't like their assessments, and then there was this move to switch, but it doesn't make any sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, any other questions or any other comments from the public? All right, anyone from the council? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Number 9 from engineering is a motion to approve, ratify, and confirm the multi-year contract award with NG Resources LLC for the purchase of electricity for all town accounts.
I'll move the motion.
All right,
Second.
any discussion? Any questions?
Yeah, who's that? Engineering, right?
Engineering, right. Do you have any questions for John?
Yeah, what'd you get, John, for a kilowatt?
I think it's in the, I think it's on the sheet.
I didn't look at it. So I used to get a package like this.
You could get that still?
I know, but I don't want to.
Yes, good evening, Council President, council members. Yes, it's in the package. It's
All right.
9.164
That's the
cents
number.
per kilowatt
Okay, that's the
hour.
number. Yep, good, excellent.
John, since you're there, just in, I don't know which paragraph it is, but it indicates that we had to enter into a supply contract for a 34, and then in parentheses it says 36-month period. I assume one of those is the correct number, and I just wanted to.
Yes, it's, that's a typo on my.
Yeah, it's you
account.
36?
The prior contract was 34, and it was a carryover from the previous agenda item. It is a 36-month contract.
So it's a 36-month, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
And I think if you show the, in the agreement, one of the sections there, it'll show
It'll
36
say,
months.
Okay, that's fine, just wanted to be sure.
All right, thank you, John. All right, any other questions from the council? Anyone from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Number 10 from Public Works is a motion to approve a petition from National Grid and Verizon New England to install one new guy stub pole, 13-84, a jointly owned pole and anchor to relocate facilities on URI Bay Campus property per request of URI.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, any discussion or questions for Mike? Okay, anyone from the public interested in commenting? All right, seeing none. Do you have a question?
No, I was ready to
Okay,
vote.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 11 is a motion to authorize the use of the State of Rhode Island Master Price Agreement, MPA number 372, for tree and shrub trimming and removal services from 4 vendors for the period ending May 31st, 2023. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, anyone from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none. Last call for comments. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 12 from the Parks and Rec Department is a motion to approve the request from the Rotary Club of Wakefield, Rhode Island for the use of Veterans Memorial Park and Gazebo Park for the 39th Narragansett Annual Art Festival to be held June 24th, 25th, and 26th, 2022.
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so this comes from Parks and Rec. So this is basically an annual event, and this would be just approving it once again. It's not a new event, but are there any questions? Okay, anyone from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 13 is a motion to approve the request from the Rhode Island State Police for the annual 5K foot pursuit to be held on Sunday, April 24th, 2022, from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., subject to approval of state and local regulations.
Move the motion.
Second.
All right, any questions or discussion? All right, anyone from the public? Okay, all right, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 14 is a motion to approve the request from the Narragansett Lions Club for their annual Lions Club Pier Plunge scheduled for January 1st, 2022, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the town beach, subject to state and local regulations.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Great event.
Okay, we have a commitment from any council members to participate.
No.
I work.
I will do it.
I used to
Well,
do
you're
it.
gonna do-
I'll do it.
You'll do it? All right, Patrick?
I'll watch.
No, I left my water wings at the other.
I'll hand you your towel because I'll be working.
I'll
All
watch
right.
you.
You'll watch, and Jim Tierney already told me he's in, so that's good. Very good. All right, anyone from the public
Gotta see
interested in
that.
participating or speaking?
Come on, Stanley.
All right. Okay, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. All right, number 15 is a motion to approve the request from Rhode Island Road Races and Events Incorporated to conduct the annual Ocean State Road Race Half Marathon and 5K road race to be held on Sunday, January 23rd, 2022, from 7:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., subject to state and local regulations.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, any discussion from the council? All right, I know that Catherine has her hand up, so come on up.
Catherine Celebrate, 48 Earls Court. This is a for-profit road race. There's been a lot of discussion in the past about road races, predates at least 4 of you. People don't like them. There were a lot of complaints about them. It was decided that no more for-profit road races, and the ones that were in place could continue, but they pretty much had a pony up. That was the bottom line. Gray Matters decided to give money to the Narragansett Historical Society. Firm gave money to that fund that the Recreation Department has so that low-income kids can go to camp. And Ocean State road races can't seem to get a commitment. The Recreation Board passed a motion to require a lump sum payment. You people did away with it. That's fine, but that fund that the Recreation Department has is not getting any money. Hasn't received any money in 3 years because the firm used to put about $8,000 a year in it. Firm doesn't do a road race anymore. That was the second for-profit road race. Rather than go on and on about this is probably a policy that belongs with Michelle. Michelle should determine, if they have to pay for, say, the bathrooms or the staff to be there, during the race, or if there's a fee requirement. I think that you should throw it back in her court and let her decide and work something out with Ms. Zions so that we can get a verifiable payment to a charity from this road race. Because we get one from Gray Matters, we used to get one from Firm, and we just don't seem to be getting one from Ocean State. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. All right, any other comments from the public? All right, yep,
Yeah.
Michelle, come on up.
I'm just going to ask her a question.
Good evening, Council President Pugh, members of the council. I had been speaking with Catherine throughout the day, and I did send an email to Karen Zions looking for some clarification because I do know my predecessor had asked that a donation be made at some point after the road race was held. And I did find out, again, through an email communication today, that the race that Karen Zions puts on did donate $1,000 to the Narragansett High School girls soccer and lacrosse teams, as well as the University of Rhode Island's women's tennis team. So like Catherine had said, possibly I could entertain a conversation with Karen Zions for next year's road race and see if there's a possibility that she could possibly donate to the Parks and Recreation Fund to help support kids whose parents can't afford to send them to camp.
You think she'll spring for the master fertilizer spreader?
I'm sorry, sir, I'm not sure where we're on.
I say, you
one
think
there.
the people supporting this race can spring for that master fertilizer spreader you're looking for? That way we can, never mind. Never mind. Maybe next year we can, okay.
Michelle,
Yes, sir.
What's the
I think,
policy? What's the policy?
yeah, right. So I know that I can't comment on anything before I was on the council. I don't know necessarily what the policy was previously. I know with the last council that Patrick and I were both on, during that term, they passed a motion to require a donation. I thought it was like $5,000 or something.
I believe it was 10,000, sir.
Okay, so 10,000. And we knew that, that happened, that passed. This council removed that policy with a vote. So we know that isn't in effect. But is there another policy of like $1,000 that I wasn't aware of?
No, sir, no, sir,
Okay,
I'm not aware.
so that would be a voluntary donation.
That is correct.
Right. So they did that. I mean, you checked. They don't have to do it, but they did that. We're talking about Rhode Island road races.
Correct.
Right,
Correct.
okay.
Great,
Okay.
thanks for the clarification, because I was unsure. I wanted
So
to make
is
sure.
there a suggested donation?
No.
There is not, and I would certainly leave it up to Karen. Karen also had made a very good point. Unlike Gray Market, that has the Ocean Road 10K, that had well over 2,000 participants this year, as opposed to Karen's half marathon and marathon, which had a little over 800. So a big difference in the financial burden in running such a race. Again, I do agree with Catherine that possibly, again, because we do require at least 5 staff members to assist with this road race, even though Karen's group did pay for their time and salaries for that day. I'm sure we could negotiate something where she could possibly make a donation to our fund to help camp.
But Michelle, we're not going to require it. I mean, if we
No.
choose to do that, we change
No,
that.
I don't think we should do that, because then I think we would have to require that of all of the road races across the board to make sure we had that parity.
So, yeah, so we're not going to ask them to do that. I just want to be clear.
Well, this is a different issue we could discuss it now. This is a vote to approve this race. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
We've talked about this. This council made it clear our position. It's kind of more of a philosophical thing, whether we think it should be required or not. But these races pay for all staffing, all police detail, all that. And then with this one specifically, in October, we don't all have to agree. But I think my opinion is that it's good to have people in town at that
Provides
time of year.
activity.
And we haven't gone to the point of expanding these races. This existed before. I don't know if we've approved any new for-profit races. But I appreciate, what Catherine said as well. So we just have a different opinion. Anyway, any other comments? Okay. So this is for the approval of a race. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 16 is a motion to approve the Bobby Doyle 5-mile Summer Classic Road Race on Sunday, August 14th, 2022, subject to state and local laws.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
This has been on the books, too.
Okay, yeah, this one's been around for a while, right? All right, anyone from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 17 is a motion to approve the purchase of one new Toro Spraymaster fertilizer sprayer for the Parks and Recreation Department from Pat's Power Equipment in the amount of $13,210.81. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, so it sounds like Councilor Murray has a lot to say on this one.
We could have had it paid for here with all these races. We could have had it paid for.
Okay, any other comments?
Nope.
No, I'm fine.
Michelle, yeah, no questions for
No, I
Michelle.
have no
Okay.
questions,
Stanley, come on up. Please state your full name and address.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. I was just, I just don't know if we could rent one. I don't know how often we spray fertilizer. I used to just do it once a year myself. So I was wondering if we could just rent one to accomplish the mission and get it done. Or if it's done twice a year, can we rent? Maybe we can borrow it from South Kingston. Maybe they have one. Is there other options available that would cost less money? You know, having this thing sit around and might get rusty when it's not being used, whatever. So is that an option to rent it or borrow from?
Why do we can bring Michelle up and answer that for you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Thank you.
Though I like the idea of potentially renting anything, obviously it's not good practice for us as a town agency to rent any type of equipment. The liability, in particular, for safety reasons and also potential damage to equipment. I believe firmly that it's very important that we would own the piece of equipment. Also, I'm highly confident in our parks foreman, who takes explicit care of every single piece of equipment, vehicle, spreader, truck, you name it. If you go by the shop on any given day, that equipment is gleaming. The guys and gals are working on it all the time, making sure they're properly oiled, make sure they have all the correct gas, all the fluids, et cetera. We, as my town council agenda shows, there are 31 individual lawns that the Parks Maintenance Department takes care of throughout the year. And as you saw, and everybody knows, pretty much the grass stopped growing just about 2 weeks ago, which is absolutely incredible. So now we have all of our lawns that, you know, our landscapers or our own family members are trying to clean up because, again, we're a little bit behind on the winterization of our lawns and the, you know, picking up the grass and cutting the seagrass, et cetera. Right now, the Parks Maintenance teams uses backpack spreaders, also portable hand push spreaders, et cetera. As you all know, if you've tried to fertilize yourself, if you don't have the sprayer on the right setting, you know, you get that big patch of fertilizer that burns your grass, and then you're upset because your grass doesn't look very good for the first 4 weeks of the season because there's a big burn spot. This particular machine not only will regulate that, but it will also be used to get into those tight locations in several of our parks where we have trees, along the baseball fields where, again, we have infield dirt, the playgrounds where we have playground equipment. So again, I do believe wholeheartedly it is a purchase that we need. And again, I assure you it will be well taken care of and worth the purchase.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, you just don't spread fertilizer, you spread other products also, correct?
That is correct, yes. And it can spread not only dry fertilizer, the granular fertilizer, but also the liquid fertilizer as well. And we do a lot of fertilizing both in the early spring, late summer, and also the early fall.
How old's the one you got now?
They don't have one. Not this kind.
We don't have.
You don't have one at all?
We don't have a drive-on spreader. No, everything's been done manually or with a container that's put on the back of the truck.
So we're saving man hours again.
We're saving man hours, sir. Yes, sir.
There we go, all righty.
Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Michelle.
All right, anyone else from the public? All right, any last comments from the council? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Number 18 from the town council is a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading an ordinance amendment to Chapter 58, Retirement and Pensions, to add subsection 23K. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, so this is our second reading. We had a long discussion last meeting.
James did a great job on this.
Yeah. But this is another chance to talk about it. So are there any comments from the council? Okay. Anyone?
Well, yeah, I did.
Okay.
I just, only just because I didn't have a lot of the data that I had requested last time. Again, I don't disagree that employees, the library employees should have a retirement or anything, so I just want to stand by that fact. Just, we don't know how this is going to affect the overall, cost to the pension. So that was my only concern. I get it. It's like, it was 3-2. Those are just my concerns. And, again, I stand by it because there were times that we did discuss this and I kept on asking, like, how many employees is this going to be? Like, what's it going to be in the end, the cost to the town? So that was really, again, my concerns and what the contribution is. Who's going to decide what the contribution is by the employees now? So that's all I wanted to say, state my piece and move on. So.
Thank you. Councilor Murray?
Yeah, James, so all future employees with more than 20 hours will be available for a pension?
Correct. 5 months and 20 hours. That's consistent with the rest of the town employees.
Right.
Good point.
Yeah. Okay. Now, we talked about a resolution. Is that something that's still in the works?
I am going to bring that up with the library trustees at some point.
Right.
A resolution that was modeled after one in North Kingstown where it's an agreement of sorts that the two parties will work together to
Be fiscal responsible.
correct, precisely. And that the way we structured North Kingstown was so that the library trustees could withdraw at any time, providing them that protection. So it's not totally binding on them, it's just a resolution of agreement between the parties. But that's completely up to them to do. There's no way to force that through state law or
Again,
ordinance.
yeah, because they're a different entity. Got it. All right. Let's talk to Christine, Laura Kenyon. The three that they're requesting is not much of an impact over time, but it's future employees where I'm concerned, but I think if you guys hammer out a resolution and a commitment from the library, I can support this at this time. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we'll take some comment from the public. Richard? Please state your full name and address. Richard, we're trying to keep the mask on at the microphone.
Richard, try to keep the mask on. Try to
You
keep it
gotta
on
keep
so you
the
stay
mask
healthy,
on.
yeah.
We can hear pretty clearly through that.
Yeah, we can hear you. There you go. Beautiful.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
great.
Okay.
Good.
My name is Richard Vangermersh, and I'm on the Finance Committee and have a long time involvement here in trying to get rid of the COLAs. And my comments here are not directed against any library person, but against anyone in Narragansett getting unjust enrichment, the COLA. At the last meeting, I requested dollars and numbers on the number of library employees we are adding to the rolls, on the yearly dollar amount for the required annual contribution, and on the dollars that were added to the present value of the pension liability for this change. I got no answer at all, other than I guess we don't know or we're not telling. I'm asking this again. Hopefully this has not been done blindly and oblivious to future costs. Apparently NIHOT was consulted. NIHOT would come up with these numbers, and I would like to hear them. If not, this is just not good, sound, financial, fiscal management. The numbers must be known and told to the public.
Thank you, Richard. Mr. Wojciechowski. Please state your full name and address.
Wojciechowski in Narragansett. The professor really stole all the, he's telling the truth, he's telling something professional. You know, sometimes I had a feeling that government officials don't look at the finance carefully enough. If there's a problem, it's normally with cost, money. We want to do favors for people, we want to do stuff for people, we want to be nice. All these good things we want to do for everyone. Take care of everyone. But we don't look at the cost. Carefully know the exact dollar, like the councilwoman ever said. We want to look at every penny, every dollar that's spent, and make sure we follow through on it. Like right now, we got a building there, so we have a building, so we should know about how many employees are going to be in this new building, and there should be a cap. I don't know how many we have, how many we're going to have, but they should be, you should know how many employees will have to be in that building that you are now building. At Belmont thing, we have a square foot, therefore we know how many people are going to be there. Therefore, you should demand a knowledge of how many employees are going to be there. So how many additional employees will be on this, as well as the cost. We just ought to be a little more careful in the dollar figure. I ask that you just wait until you have a dollar figure you can tell me. Give me a dollar figure. Is it going to be $860,000 normally like it was before? How much of an increase is the normal going to be? What's the pension going to do? Like the doctor mentioned. What's the effects of the pension? I want to know the dollar number before I make a decision. So please table it and get a dollar number. Just give me a dollar number so I can feel that you understand what you're voting for and the impact on the taxpayer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stanley. Catherine? Please state your full name and address.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I believe we're engaging in an Open Meetings Act violation here. The item on the agenda is, should the ordinance be amended to include the library employees? Our solicitor says it's legal to do so. That is the only matter on the agenda, not unfunded liability, resolutions, what they did in North Kingston. It's all just nonsense. That is not what we're talking about. You either follow your solicitor's advice. He is saying that they can be allowed to join the pension system, and now you just have to amend the ordinance, I guess, to make sure it's crystal clear, so we don't go down this road 100 times again in the next 20 years, and I might even be alive in the next 20 years. I don't think I can handle listening to this for the next 20 years. But again, the item on the agenda is just amending the ordinance. It's nothing else. If you want to talk about unfunded liabilities or whatever, somebody put a motion on, we'll talk about it all night long. But now's not the night. By the way, these employees are going to pay 10% of their salary into this. If I had a choice, I wouldn't do it. But that's what they want to do, that's fine. You know, pensions aren't free public pensions. I don't know why people think this, but you put 10% of your salary away for 30 years in even a balanced fund, you're going to be much better off, believe me, but they want to belong to the system. The solicitor says they can legally belong to it. That's it. That's the item before you. That's what you have to vote on. And all other discussion, I don't think it's appropriate, really. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Mr. Zanfrilla? Please state your full name and address.
Paul Zanfrillo, 7 Windward Circle. I'm so old that I remember when library folks had this narrative that Mr. Mota couldn't possibly buy the Belmont building without a business plan because there was no idea whether he would be financially successful. That was way back about a year and a half ago. So I'm just wondering, when are you going to hold the library accountable? We have no, I'm glad you think that's funny. We have no impact on what this is going to look like for a pension, and it feels like what it's going to be to the town. And what it feels like is that now that there's a new council, there's a complete blank check for whatever they want to do. And they're running the table. Hey, if you got the votes, you got the votes. But it's pretty fiscally irresponsible not to run the numbers, not to know the impact. And there's a real lack of transparency. So I would encourage you to definitely put those numbers out there before you take a second vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Gloria? Please state your full name and address.
Gloria Roman, 33 Wheatfield Cove Road. I understand what everybody is saying, but never have I witnessed the council or anybody else talking so much about the cost of the pension when a new employee is hired in this town. I don't understand why these issues are being brought up for the library employees. I have never heard you ever ask about any other employee of the town. There's a pension. If they're eligible for it, they should get it. You need to be careful what the costs are, but you can't single out one group. I need to know the cost for this group when you don't do it for the whole town. You have a policy, you have a benefit. It should be for every town employee, not what if, what if, what if. The what ifs have to be for all the employees, not just for a few. And about hiring, we submit a budget, and you do the budget. So if we put 10 full-time employees on there, you're going to see that, and you're going to say, no, you can't do that. So to even think about we're going to go rogue and hire all these full-time employees, it doesn't make sense. So thank you for your time. Thank you for taking this issue under consideration at this time. It's very long overdue, and you need to have equality for all town employees. And they are town employees, and we are a municipal town library. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dr. Alba?
Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. I concur, which was just stated. We've got to be consistent for all town employees. On another note, down the road, I don't know, you all can look at, discuss with the finance department, look at our balance sheets, and see, what's the best game plan in regards to if COLA is our situation where it was for the state of Rhode Island, they had to put those on hold. We obviously don't want to become insolvent or have our taxes go up precipitously, well, then that could be discussed at a later time. But consistency is important. One of the things about working for the state, there was a lack of consistency where some people, even if they were hired after the fact, some people's pensions got altered and whatnot. So as long as we're consistent, I think that's so important. And if there are going to be changes, make it for the new hirees who are going to be hired. Like if some on a defined plan and going forward, the town's going to be adopting a 401k plan, but do that for the new hirees. But I think once someone is vested in the town, it's a shame if their pension is modified after the fact. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Al. Lori? Please state your full name and address.
Lori Kelly, 444 Ocean Road. I Thank you again for all your hard work on this. It's been a really long road. And thank you to the solicitor for working this out for us. You know, again, I agree with Gloria that no one's questioning any other new employees. The pension costs are the same. For the pension costs based on salary with the Department, of Public Works. Basically, they might pay a percentage more or less than we do, but that's all in the municipal ordinances. The second thing I want to stress again is that we were given this right in 1990 by an ordinance, and that currently there are people paying in and currently people are collecting pensions. So it's not like we're adding anyone, we're just correcting the problem that happened when the previous solicitor and there was a scheme to try to get us into a different thing. No retirement plan came forward to replace the town's pension plan. So we're going back to what we have always had. And these are full-time employees. Currently, the people who don't have the pension have masters in library science, something that's mandated by the state. So the costs were easy to look up. Saying somebody should report the costs is silly to me, because I'm sure that if we'd gone to the town clerk at any time, she would have assembled that information for you. And we are just back to being where we were in 1990. So again, thank you very much for your time on this.
Thank you, Lori. All right, anybody else? Okay, so back to the council. We'll go through one more time. Any comments or thoughts? Okay, Eva or Patrick?
Again, it has nothing, I like the library employees, has nothing to do with them. And it's like I'm new to the council, so I'm trying to be, fiscally responsible. I've asked for the data, and I get it. We're not going to be talking about the data right now. That's not what the agenda item is. I did have like an issue with like a 1992 ordinance change, but, we're not going to talk about that. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and call the vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, were you? You're no, okay. All right, motion approved 4-1. All right, number 19 is a motion to approve the agreement between the town of Narragansett and HBM Architects LLC. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second? All right. Motion by Susan, second by Eva, and this comes from Councilor Cicilline Banana.
So this pretty much is a negotiation between a group and HBM to reduce the design fee. And I want to thank the negotiating group that helped decrease that percentage. So the agreement's there, and I think it was well done. I don't know if you want to add anything because you were involved in that, Mr. Callahan.
Just quickly, we spoke to HBM. They were very accommodating in some respects. They reduced their fee by about $20,000 and added a number of other items that they will not charge for. So I think that's a benefit to the project overall, and any further budget items will be renegotiated for fees as well. So that's, I think, a positive in that case too.
Thank you.
All right. All right, any other discussion from the council?
It's positive, it's a reduction.
Go ahead.
James, what happens if it goes over that 6 million cap?
Well, hopefully if it goes over that budget price, then we'll have to go back and negotiate with them again. Their original fee was 9%. They were willing to go down to, I think, 7.8% here, plus the added add-ons, whatever you call them. So if it does get above that, we will negotiate again and see what we can do to come to a fair resolution.
And to make it clear, the citizens of Narragansett are only on the hook for $5.8 million, correct, through that bond?
Correct. And part of that has been spent on the purchase.
All other monies need to be raised.
Correct.
Okay, through fundraising.
And there's no...
Support your local library.
Absolutely.
All right. All right, I just want to say something, mostly for the public, so everyone's kind of aware, because you hear different interpretations of what's going on with this project over time. So what has happened, and Patrick's right, the bond is $5.8 million. And that's what we're going to spend, and that's all we can spend through that bond. Any additional cost for this project is going to be fundraised by the library, so I'll reiterate that. But the architect that we hired, HBM, they based their fee on the total project cost. They gave the town a cost for what the project was going to be. However, a lot has changed really since 2016 and also during COVID, because the price of materials and building in New England just has gone up over the last few years. So when the plans, as we got further through the project with the architect, and they came to their final, or hopefully final estimate of the project, it's higher than was initially expected, which means their fee goes up as well because it's a percentage of the overall cost. So that's why we're seeing this increase. That's what we're voting on that approval. But I just want to reiterate for a third time, that doesn't mean the town's spending more money. It means that more money needs to be fundraised by the library. They understand that. We understand that. And we're approving this because it's going to cost more overall. So I hope that clarifies a little bit for people listening.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, again, it was supposed to, should have been a fixed fee contract, and that means scope of work, not cost of materials. So I still don't agree with the 9% being if the project costs more to do because of materials. That's not what a fixed fee contract is. It should have been negotiated, but this is good that it actually addresses the escalating issue. So I will support this because I think we just need to move forward with the library. We need to move forward and get it done. But again, a fixed fee contract should be scope of work only. That's what it should have been negotiated as.
I'll say I agree with you on that. We've been on Zoom meetings, we've been discussing this, and we've had circular conversations, about this. I agree that because the materials go up or anything else goes up doesn't mean they're doing more work. I agree. However, a contract is a contract, and we need to move forward to get this done. Okay. But I agree in, really with, with the way I wish it was. Yeah. All right. Catherine? Please state your full name and address.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. What's missing here is how much has the library actually raised, the library board? We know how much we're committed to, and now we know this cost coming down the pike here, and it's going to just grow because we have to hire a construction manager, and a lot of other things are going to happen. Have they raised this money? This is the part that's missing. This is the part that everybody says, well, it's going to cost $6 million, but they don't have $6 million. We're not going to give them $6 million. Do they have it? And there should be some kind of report now from the library board, how much they've raised, how much is pledged, all of that. That's the part that's missing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Zonfrillo? Please state your full name and address.
Hi, Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Windward Circle. So I have to echo what Ms. Celebrato said. Again, another lack of transparency. Where are the audited financial statements? The head of the library board is a CFO of another financial corporation. Why don't we have audited statements saying exactly what Ms. Celebrato said? Lack of transparency. And you should hold off on this vote until there is an exact accountability, as Ms. Celebrato said, how much has been raised, how much is in the bank, how much has been pledged. Because what's going to happen is the town, we have the library half built, then what? What happens if the library is half built and the town has spent their $5.3 million, and then what? They're going to be back to the town and say, well, we're going to have to strong arm the town into giving us money. It's time to push back on the library board of trustees. They're running the table, lack of transparency. Have them show us where the money is. Show us the money. Show us how much is in the bank. Show us how much is pledged before you approve this agreement. Thank you.
All right, Stanley?
Now we're Petrowski in Narragansett. It just sounds so right that the numbers should be at least given to our finance committee. Don't we have a finance committee Mr. Zanfrello was part of? Shouldn't we have our financial experts or people who are looking at numbers, shouldn't we have them know all the details so they can come up here and support the thing? I want the financial experts, the financial people who are interested in finance. Let them look at them, get the numbers, look at the numbers. They know more than I do. I always go to the experts. Let them have all the details on the numbers, because I think they know more than you and I, you know, and they spend more time on it. So I'd like to have them support that this is financially a good idea and let's move forward. I want their support. So let's let the library give them all the numbers that they need in detail, so we can have them come up and say, well, I support it, we looked at it, we all looked at it, we spent time on it, and it's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Alba?
Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett, Rhode Island. Yeah, I do realize costs have gone up since this original proposal. I don't know if the library board or the planning committee that some of you might be involved with, if maybe they could tweak or adjust maybe some of the original plans, like if there was hardwood inlays originally decided to be planned, maybe they could go with the floating floor. I see behind you the walls like brick. I imagine that's real brick, but they actually have simulated brick. So, and there's some ways of adjusting or tweaking some of the building construction so it'll still look beautiful, still look nice, but you're not spending the big buck, like just to adjust or tweak the design so that the cost might be able to go down in some ways. So I don't know if that is discussed upon by the library board or the planning committee, just as a consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Yeah, Lori?
Lori Kelly, 444 Ocean Road. Again, you know, these are meetings between the town, council representatives, library board. So those numbers which have not been made public yet, I assure you we're not going forward with this with the town solicitor without showing our hand as to where we are on this. And there's comfort also with the council as to, you know, how the fundraising is going. But the fundraising, I have to be specific, is held in a 501c3. It is, you know, there's all sorts of rules about regulations of fundraising and protection of donors. So that's why we haven't been running in front of this with, you know, releasing all this information. Now that we have, you know, we've taken a huge step forward, and I've spoken before that while we've had escalating costs, we are reverse engineering to get the numbers down. That has something to do with why we're picking 6 million, because we feel that we can obtain that number. But, you know, if it escalated to 7 million, you know, and I've had discussions with Patrick about this, we're moving at 6 million. So wherever that takes us, if it's one open room, we're moving over there, and we'll be continuing to fundraise to finish the shell or whatever. But we think we have a good number. We have a lot of pledges. We have money in the bank. That information will be coming out soon, as will the actual floor plans, as we're getting very close to that. We're thinking somewhere middle of January, hopefully, that we can have a PowerPoint presentation one of these nights and go over that information. But that's where we stand today. It's not like we're not showing it. We're just not at the public readiness at this point. So, thank you.
Laura, I had a couple of questions here. You're also reusing a lot of the furniture and shelving and
yes,
items.
very good point. There's $160,000 that the HBM has tentatively backed out,
right,
so that we can move our existing shelving,
right,
and some of the soft furnishing over there. You know, and we're questioning, you know, the type of pipes that we're putting in, and we're questioning, you know, things that we had assumed we were going to replace. We're now testing those you know, utilities or whatever, to see how much life is in them so that we can really just move over there. We're not going to do anything stupid and, you know, have the building leaking windows when we go over there.
Right.
But if we can save something and use it, we're going to be doing that.
Understood.
So,
I got one more question. Now, initially, when we went through the whole process there, you had to fundraise, I think it was about $1.2, $1.3 million. Now, so my question is, I don't know if you can answer this, but are you over that, or are you comfortable with getting that number
we're over
and
that
above, right?
We're over that in pledges.
Okay.
We have a considerable amount of money in the bank right now.
Okay.
And I think that the fundraiser's, you know, ultimate goal is now $3 million.
Yep.
So, and that, you know, again, it's because of the support that we've
Sure.
had from the community that's making that very realistic.
And the issue has always been that you didn't have a library to fundraise on.
Right.
So now that you start construction, it's something tangible that people can look at and say, hey, I want to be a part of this. So do you think that will spur more fundraising?
Correct. And right now, you know, because people didn't, I hate to say it, but there was not trust in the last council. And some of the fundraising was very specific, do not turn this money over to the town, which is why it's you know,
Right.
off your balance sheet. I mean, it
Right.
will be turned over when we go forward
We
with the
didn't need to
project.
hear that. That's
But
okay.
we need, you know, we need to keep that pot of money.
Sure.
And now we have this story, which is very effective, to say, okay, now the council's behind it, we're going forward, but guess what? Everyone knows that the inflation and lack of materials has escalated costs.
Right.
So we actually need your money. Nobody else, the other thing with fundraising is if it was a fully funded project, people aren't really going to be giving you a lot of money either,
Right.
because you've already fully
Right.
funded. We have a shortfall. The community is, you know, responsive to that, so.
Right. Okay, great. Uh-huh.
Anyone else?
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else from the public? All right, any other council thoughts? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 20 is a motion to authorize the town of Narragansett to participate in the Sister City International Program. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, this comes from Councilor Cicilline Banana.
So this is a program, as you saw in your packet in the communication, it's a program that IDEA would like the town of Narragansett to support and wholeheartedly endorses it. And it will help the town in many different ways develop personal and global connections based on culture, education, information, trade exchange. So it's like a international program. They put you, it's a nonprofit, but they put you with another city, and you are the elected officials, like kind of host those relationships, whether it's, you know, student culture, whether it's, you know, to promote peace, you know, positive relationships. So it's a great program, and the information will be forthcoming. If we vote to approve a membership, then they'll tell us who our sister city is going to be and what that will evolve to become. But it's really a partnership and connection, and you know, I think it's a really good awareness, connection, cultural kind of thing from two different places in the world. So I would ask the council to support it. And once we fill out an application, we'll let you know who the sister cities are and what the relationships will be, and you will be involved in that work.
Now, similar cities, like coastal, would be a coastal town, approximately the same
I
population.
don't know if you can ask or they just partner up, but would that be your preference to have
Oh,
something
yeah, I'd
similar
like to-
or
I'd
something
like to-
completely different? I was thinking, but
Well, if you're gonna have a sister, you wanna have an ocean. I mean, you
Yeah.
wanna have it, the same characteristics as Narragansett, I would imagine. I think that's, isn't that the way
well,
to
I
do
think
it?
you can learn from other. Yeah, you can learn from other.
'Cause
other
I don't want no
places.
desert community, you know, some.
I'll see if you get to.
Yeah, it's just-
Serengeti, I don't
That
wanna
was
go
my
to a
question.
town on the Serengeti, for God's
That
sake.
was my question too, Susan, like whether we get to choose or not. I know like when I've gone to Newport, they actually have like a sister city sign. And does South Kingston have that as well, or just, they do? And then, yeah, I guess we could just kind of, just for curiosity.
Get like a free trip out of this?
Yeah, maybe we get a free
I
trip.
think you can travel there, yeah.
I don't know.
All right, any other council?
No.
Like, we're good.
Catherine?
I'm gonna support this.
I don't think you
I
can.
have vertigo, that's why I'm walking like this. I don't, Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. I don't think some people understand what a sister city is. You don't partner with a city that's like yours. You partner with a city that's the complete opposite, okay? You want to partner with Malibu, maybe, I don't know.
Well, I wanna
That's
go-
not what a sister city
I wanna go
program
swimming.
is about.
I wanna see one with an ocean.
I'll send you some information on it, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Stanley?
In the new library. I'll look it up in the new library.
And Hawkins, Narragansett. The cost, is there any cost to the taxpayer if we pursue this?
Only if we send you.
Only if we travel.
If we send you over there, they're gonna charge us some money.
We're gonna have to buy something, is there something we have to buy, or we're committed to do?
No, it's
or
just a beautiful partnership
It's just an
for free.
idea of getting together with somebody, kind of have a coffee or something with somebody, so there's no taxpayer assessment on this.
Postage stamp.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. Anyone else? All right. Just want to thank the IDA committee for doing the work on this and sending over the recommendation. So it's good to see results coming from our new committees. So, okay, any other thoughts? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved.
Good job, Susan.
5-0.
Thank you, Patrick. It's a great committee.
Yeah. Get a nice Puerto Rico with waves or something. Get some waves.
All right, number 21 is a motion to appoint, this is from the town clerk, a motion to appoint one individual to the Historical Cemetery Commission. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
I'd like to reappoint Peter, help me out.
Ketty?
How do you pronounce it, Janet?
Second.
Peter Ketty?
Is it Ketty?
Ketty?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you guys are
For
close
3
friends, I
years.
could tell.
For a 3-year term.
All right. So this would be
Yeah, right.
his, well, he was just appointed in April.
He gets another term.
He'll get another one,
Yeah, he
right?
gets
Because he's only
another
done a
one.
partial.
So he's in the
Right.
middle and he gets to finish it, goes in line with it.
Yep, all right. Any other, well, I think there are other applications. Any other nominations? We're good?
No.
Okay, all right. Any comments from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion approved, 5-0. Number 22 is a motion to appoint and reappoint 2 individuals to the Personnel Appeal Board.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
I'd like to reappoint Joe Notar Antonio. And then there's one spot, correct?
I would like to nominate Thomas Hines.
Yep,
Yes.
yeah, I'll second that one
I'll
too.
second that.
I would
Yeah.
second that too.
Who gets to second that?
Third it.
You
Deb,
gotta
for
be-
the record, we're going to let
You can have
Deb,
it,
Deb's
Jesse.
going to be the
All
second.
right, I'll take the second.
All right, so we have Joe Notar Antonio, and then
Thomas Hines.
Thomas Hines. And I just want to make sure, do we have to do any sort of staggering? It doesn't look like it on here.
5-year terms.
Okay.
A quick question too, in terms of that referendum. So would this be a 3-year term, three-year board? Or is this, I know some of them have to be longer, but I know with the referendum, I wasn't sure if we were addressing that in this one.
Right.
I think it says by town charter. Oh, but we did update, right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you looked into this, Janet?
Let's see what it says here. It was composed of 5 members.
Chris,
They
the
are
way that
5-year
it
terms.
currently stands is that the town charter states that it needs to be 5-year terms.
But even with the referendum, that was the 2012, that was what we had discussed last time, the 3-year terms, two-term limits, versus like where we had to have like certain ones that were 5 years. I don't know, I'm just asking.
Right, I know what you're saying. So I guess it goes back to the question. There was the one line in the charter reform that said, unless specified by state and local regulation. Did it also say by town charter or not? I guess we just want some clarity on that before we. It is 5, but we want to see if that's incorrect. is what we want to check.
At which point we would change it to 3?
We might want to table that, we might want to continue this and get some clarity on it. What do you think, James?
I should check on that one, because not many boards are created by charter. This is kind of a rarity, I think, so I have to look into it for, I think it does, I think it is 5 years, but I think that it'd be better if we just maybe put this off for 2 weeks and come back and revisit it.
So can we vote on it, and then if it's not correct, then
Well, we should continue.
Yeah, we have to.
Because we don't want to we don't want to change their
Yep,
term.
let's do that.
All right, so is there a motion to continue?
I'll make the motion to
Second.
continue.
All right. Any comments from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion to continue for 2 weeks, or till next meeting, approved, 5-0. Then we have a motion to reappoint one individual to the planning board. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
And I'm going to make a recommendation to reappoint, everybody sit still for Dr. O'Neill. It goes to be consistent with the new term limits he would get this last term. So I support that.
Yeah, but he's been on since 1987.
I
so
know.
I'm not
I
going
know.
to.
All right, okay, so that's the nomination. Any discussion from the council? Okay. I mean, I do get your point. You know, the thing is, we put in place a policy that he does qualify for, which is one more term. And if he was, we've already reappointed people that have served 20 years. He's served 33. Either of those are long. Both of those are outside of the current new policy. So just because he's older than someone who served 20 years or served longer than someone that served 20 years, I don't see anyone who's going to do a better job than him.
Right.
So I think he deserves the last term.
We just knighted him. Last week, last month.
Why don't we go to the public, though? We have Catherine, and then we'll do Mr. Zonfellow after.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. Dr. O'Neill's second term would be after 11/6/2012. He falls under what the electorate wanted. He only had one term since 11/6/2012, so he's legitimate. He is legally qualified, according to what the electorate wanted on 11/6/2012, to a second term. This doesn't fall under your new rule. This is it falls under what they voted on, people voted on. So even though he's been on since 1987 because of the appointment dates, I looked this all up, because of the appointment dates, his second term is, his first term was right before 11/6/2012. So his second term is going to be after that. In other words, this is what the electorate wanted, so he falls within that.
Right, he served, so he got appointed in 2017, so that's only one, and the appointment before that was...
Well, because of the date, I guess, that kind of thing. So this is actually, like, the people would be happy with this, the electric. Eva, you should be happy with this, because this is the second term after, anyway. Anyway, over and above that is, I think Dr. O'Neill's a good fit for the planning board. I think he's more resident-friendly than the rest of them. He's the only person, honestly, on the planning board I've ever heard mention the word hardship. Planning board, when they make recommendations, they're not supposed to make them willy-nilly. If people want variances, they're supposed to have a darn good reason why they want them. And I think Dr. O'Neill has a tendency to look to that more so than some of the other ones. But anyway, I certainly would support him. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Zonfrillo?
That's going to help me sleep tonight.
Hi, Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Women's Circle. With all respect to Dr. O'Neill, he has been on for a really long time, and I think it is time for some new blood, for a change. So I would ask you guys, Steve Ferrandi's put his name in as well. He has incredible attention to detail, really well-versed in what's going on in the town. Plus, it would send a message that, Steve's very resident-friendly as well, and I think we need a stronger representation of that on the board. So I would ask that you, no disrespect to Dr. O'Neill, it's time for a change. Thank you.
Yes. All right, so we have the nomination for Dr. O'Neill. We'll go ahead and call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Okay, next we have a motion to reappoint 3 individuals to the Towers Committee. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
I'd like to reappoint Jimmy Durkin, Shirley Easton, and Linda O'Neill for 3-year terms.
Okay, any,
So Jimmy's would be 2019 to 2022, Shirley Easton would be 2020 to 2023, and Linda O'Neill would be 2019 to 2022.
right, because some of them have been on for like 2 years, expired. Yep. And these are also, basically, these are all the liaisons from different organizations.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, they're recommended by their organization, right? Okay, anyone from the public? All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 25 is a motion to reappoint 3 individuals to the Zoning and Plating Board. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
We have a second?
I'd like
Okay.
to have Chris Almond, the one, move to the full seat, Keith Kyle, who's the alternate 2, to move to the alternate 1 seat, and I'd like Thomas Callahan to be the alternate 2nd seat.
All right, any other nominations? So that's basically, those are 3 nominations. Can everyone see how those fit? All right, are there any other nominations that anyone would like to make? Okay. I do have a question now that I look closely at this. Janet, so the expiration date for Chris Amon in a new seat, in a full seat, would be
5 years.
2022?
No, 5 years.
No, that's the alternate seat. That's his current.
So that's for the new person that's going into his seat. Got it.
Right.
Okay. Got it.
Good.
And member 3 is
to
the
the-
5-year. Okay,
Right.
that makes sense.
Right.
Right? All right, so we have Christopher Amon, full seat, Keith Kyle, alternate 1, Thomas Callahan, alternate 2.
Correct.
Okay? And just a reminder for everyone, the alternate seats don't count towards any term limits. So that's what, so Chris Amon will be serving his first full term. All right, Catherine?
Catherine Silivero, 48 Earls Court. When Chris Almond was originally appointed, I even suggested he be put on the board because at that time, we didn't have an assistant solicitor. We only had Dawson, and he was, attending to business every day, coming to the town council meetings, going to these zoning and planning boards. And Chris, I don't even know the guy, he's an attorney. So I figured, well, that would free Dawson up. But since then, he's bought 3 rentals. He has 3 student rentals, Chris. And I don't think he's a proper fit for the zoning board. Right now, we have only business owners, rental owners, or they're business and rental owners. We need a resident representative on this board. It's just dominated by these other types. I say the zoning board never saw a variance they didn't like, and that's the God's honest truth. Someone did a quick study of like a year and a half of everything that went before them. They never denied anything. Some of the variances are so unbelievable. People build walls and then they go before the board and the board says, that's okay, you built a wall, what the heck. But anyway, like I said, we need a resident representative on that board. And Chris Amon wouldn't be a proper fit in that regard. Rather, I think this Mr. Callahan, Steve Ferrandi, they both applied, they're long-term residents, they don't have rentals, they don't own businesses. We just need, we need another different type of voice on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, any other comments from the council? All right, so we have the 3 appointments. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 26 is a motion to direct the town clerk regarding increasing the number of authorized liquor licenses in 2022. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second? Okay. All right, so basically what we're doing is authorizing the town clerk to advertise that anyone who wants to apply as a business or request a new liquor license can go ahead and submit that. This is an annual thing. This isn't approving new liquor licenses, just advertising. Right, Janet, anything to add, or is that good?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Catherine?
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. Is it legal mandate that you advertise? Do you have to advertise? Or is this just something you do every year?
That is in the rules that the council have for governing the, as the liquor license board.
The
It's there, it's the
council-
council's rules.
This is, you made that rule that you have to advertise?
We didn't make
it?
this rule.
Who made the rule?
I don't know. At some point, this was made as a town council rule.
And
take full
it's
responsibility.
Legally binding? I mean,
Probably not, but we do follow our council rules.
we have 38 liquor licenses in this little town. I mean, how many, I've written you emails about this. How many more, how many more, really?
The problem is that hardly any of those operate after 8 o'clock during the week anymore.
That's not true, stop it. Patrick's got that sip joint running over there at his house. We go out there after 8
I
o'clock.
take full responsibility for all 38 liquor licenses in this town. I think we should have a liquor license in every garage.
Stanley?
The fuck? Jesus Christ almighty.
Please state your full name and address.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. Again, justice for all. I mean, really, a business can't exist without a liquor license. That's the way it goes. Everybody's going to go to that place. So why do you give one and you don't give another? What is it, not politically connected? What's that about? Again, we got to go with this equality, justice. And everybody in business knows they need that to stay in business. Therefore, everyone should have it. If there's an issue later on, people can make complaints and they can deal with it at that time. Maybe pull a license if something goes wrong. But not to allow any business to survive, I think that's wrong. Justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Any other comments from the council? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Number 27 is a motion to authorize the town clerk to advertise upcoming appointments to boards, committees, and commissions.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, so basically advertising. In the paper, our boards and commissions openings. Any questions, comments? Okay, anyone from the council? Public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?